All right, so just a quick note that we have conference season coming up. Hopefully, at least one of them, maybe NACOB will be in person. Hopefully, some of your conferences will be in person this year. But if not, either way, we'd love to meet up with all of you as part of the IWB community. So Orally has started a Google survey. I will post that in the chat. So feel free to sign up if you'd be interested in coordinating a meetup. You can sign up there. And we also have on our Slack channel a conference meetup specific channel. And you can create your own channels for specific meetings, ISBS, NACOB, whatever. So feel free to use the IWB Slack for those reasons. We really want to connect the community. All right, one other thing is that we hope that you check out the IWB blogs. Alexa is on the call, so you can message her or email her at any time. Feel free to check out all the great resources on our blogs. There's some really, really helpful information. Frankie's questions are incredible. Katie always has some really great biomechanics knowledge. So, and then the last thing I'll just say is that we really hope you get involved this year. We have some really big things coming up for IWB. We're starting putting in applications to be a nonprofit organization to get more resources and more money to essentially do more with IWB. So if you're interested in getting involved, especially we're looking for a treasurer to help with finances and as we ramp up our nonprofit efforts. So if you're interested in any committee or any position, please email me or the IWB email and let us know. All right, with that, I will pass it off to Hannah and Melissa for a fantastic workshop ahead.
Thank you so much, Anna, and thanks for letting us be here today. We're so excited to start this workshop. Melissa's just going to share the slides. Yeah, and just want to say a warm welcome to you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. We appreciate the international community that is here today. My name is Hannah O'Day. I am a researcher at Stanford University. And we're just really so happy to be here with you today. I'll hand it over to the other leader of this workshop to share a little bit about the inspiration for why we're here and what we're doing.
Sure, thanks, Hannah. Hopefully you can see the slides. Okay, getting 2 thumbs up, that's good. All right, yeah, so I'm Melissa. I'm a postdoc in the neuromuscular biomechanics lab at Stanford. And I'm really excited to share this workshop with you all with Hannah. This is the first time we're giving this workshop, but it was inspired and adapted from the impact program at MIT. And when I did that workshop, coming up with an impact statement was a really nice way, I think, to think about the purpose of my work and the meaning and the impact that it has, and find a really simple and an articulate way to share that with others and in a way that they can understand, in a way that's like quick and feels easy to share at work. Because sometimes I know when people ask me what I do, it's almost this like feeling of like overwhelmed, like where do I even start? So we hope that by the end of this, you'll know where to start, and you'll be more excited to share your work. We will also later on share the link to the slides when we start doing some of the activities. So many of us go into research with the hope that our work will have an impact. And I'm sure many of you have spent a lot of years focusing on the scientific aspects of your projects and have presented at meetings and published your work in journals. And in this shop, we really want to challenge you to consider and be able to articulate why your work matters, and do so in a way that anyone with a scientific background, so not just a biomechanist, can understand.
And before we dive into sort of the details of how we write impact statements and what they are, we're going to do a little warm up. It's important to warm up your body before you exercise. We think it's important to warm up your mind before you write an impact statement. So we're going to be talking a lot about impact today and sort of sharing what we bring to the table in our professional lives. So we thought an appropriate warm up would be to involve sharing what we bring to the table in maybe an unconventional scenario, a zombie apocalypse. So imagine it's just hit us. We're here all together. Thankfully, we're all together. What unique skills do you bring to this room that will aid in our mutual survival when the zombie apocalypse hits? So feel free to populate it in the chat. I'm gonna put mine in to start. I think I'm really good. I was always good at hide and go seek as a kid, so I'm good at finding good hiding places. So I will help you all hide. I am definitely a flight, not a fighter. So, so I'm putting that in.
And if you want to shout it out too, if you'd rather do that, feel free to shout it out.
I know we have all sorts of talents and skills in this room, so. Kickboxing, woo! Sounds like Caitlin's a Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Ooh, a zombie souffle. Campfires. Elite judo. Wow, Stuart.
Rebecca's coming in with those scrappy meals.
Yeah.
So we won't be hungry.
Oh, we got some softball.
Helen's gonna calm us all down with their wine collection. Thank you. At least we'll go out with a bang.
We got some goalie gear too, so at least we'll be protected. Wow, I feel really good about this.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, Erica, a martyr for us all, taking one for the team. All right, well, thank you all. Keep those in mind. Feel free to keep thinking about it. Throw it in the chat as you think about it, and we'll use those later as we go into breakout rooms as like a fun way to introduce yourself in those. So keep thinking. I'll hand it back over to you, Melissa.
Okay, so bringing it back to what is impact? So impact can be a scientific advance that allows for the next step in an area of investigation. A lot of times we're working on building on work and just really getting to another step so we can continue to build off of our work. It can be a new device, it can be new methodology. And I think a lot of us in biomechanics, one of our main goals is to improve the quality of life, whether that's for an individual or a larger population. One thing we want to emphasize is it doesn't need to change the world. It doesn't need to change the whole world. But really, all the small changes add up, and the small changes end up changing the world. So we also want you to consider the impact of your work that maybe initially you might not feel is some huge impact, but in reality, it really is making a difference. So some other things to consider as we're writing these statements, the important question is who will be affected by your work and how, and what will be different because of your results or because of your work. And being a note is that being in an important field of work doesn't necessarily guarantee that your work will be impactful. It's really about making sure that we are able to, help people and it's affecting others.
So Melissa gave us some great reasons on why we should write these impact statements or have them ready. But what actually are these different tools? So we have impact statements, storylines, and cases. And I like to sort of think of these in the context in which you might use them. So in an elevator, you might have time to give a short statement, 1 to 3 sentences capturing the essence of your project with whoever's lucky enough to be in the elevator with you. For your impact storyline, you get a logical progression of points that convey most of the elements of your project, but maybe not all the nitty-gritty details. You might not get into all of the methods, for example. And you could probably fill, a 5 to 10 minute bus ride on your commute to work with your impact storyline. However, if you get really lucky to be on a plane with someone, you might get to share your impact case, which is a more expanded explanation, maybe in the form of a presentation. When I was sharing this with Melissa, she was like, "Oh, I just love when someone gives me a good PowerPoint presentation on a plane." So I like to kind of think of it in these 3 different contexts. And now I'd like you to all sort of think about a time where you might use an impact statement. I can think of plenty of times where I wish I'd had my impact statement ready. So feel free to just throw that in the chat or shout it out. Times where you think an impact statement might be useful, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Every grant ever written. That is a great one. Oh, meeting someone in your field unexpectedly. Conferences, networking events, answering what are you studying? Oh, every family
Nice.
reunion. Community presentations. I love, trying to explain your research to someone who's not in the field. A job interview is a great place to have a home run impact statement.
All the family holidays. Yes, I can relate. Well, I like that one. Meeting a person affected by the disease you're studying, or going over the big why with a participant. That's nice. Or when somebody, comes and visits the lab, sometimes we have lab tours and I'm going to share what we're doing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Those are all great. Thanks. So it's important to recognize that writing these different levels of impact statement storyline cases requires a lot of iteration, and we're going to do some of that iteration today in this workshop. So I'll hand it over back to Melissa to help us start that journey.
Okay. So today we're just going to be focusing on impact statements. All of these take a while to write out and really iterate on. But we're going to start with the shortest, which is the impact statement. Although I won't say that it's the easiest to write, because sometimes I think it's a lot easier to write a lot about what we're doing than what we're doing in just a few sentences. But at the end, we will share some examples of an impact storyline and an impact case, and then share those slides with you, so you have that as a resource too, if you'd like to continue this impact journey. So as we just mentioned, reasons for creating an impact statement, finally having a response to the question, what do you do? I mean, I feel like show of hands for like, if somebody's been asked that like greater than 10,000 times, like probably everyone, yeah. And just being able to articulate your work and why it matters. And another one is helping people see your vision and understand why your work is important and exciting. And I think that goes to a lot of these responses that we had in terms of meeting people, whether that's a participant, someone else in the field, someone outside of the field, really helping others to see the impact and vision. And in that way, you really spark new ideas, and others that can spark new ideas in you, spark collaborations, and really build excitement for the work that we're doing. So now we'll start to go into some of the nitty-gritty of actually creating an impact statement. And one of the first things that I wanted to mention is to try to avoid both jargon and generalizations. So we want to be specific with what we're saying, but we don't want to be too detailed where it gets confusing and it becomes then difficult to understand. Some additional considerations. The first one we mentioned already, but who is this impacting? And then also, how is it novel? How is what you're doing new or different than what's been done before? What is special about it? And then finally, what did you do specifically? And I think this part is just as important as the rest of it, right? Because it's really awesome to be able to see the individual contribution that we're doing in our work. And we wanted to note today, as we're drafting our first impact statement, that I'm sure many of us are working on many different projects. And so if there are multiple avenues for your work or different types of work that you're doing, try to just pick one for today. Not just one project, but one sort of key area of impact for that project. Because once these individual avenues are clear, then it's easier to move on and discuss multiple ones later.
So Melissa, yeah, gave us some great tools for thinking about the process of creating an impact statement. I think it helps to see some examples of what something is not, because when I know what something is not, then I can kind of better triangulate on what it is. So we're going to go through some examples of impact statements now that maybe aren't so perfect that we might want to improve. So here's one. I'm studying patients with thrombosis-induced MI. And the problem here is that there's too much jargon, right? Words that, jargon's words that non-experts won't understand. I don't know what MI is. Abbreviations are my least favorite form of jargon. I think that you should always spell it out if you can. Who here has been stumped by an abbreviation? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, I think 100% you should write it out. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so now we've gone to the other end of the spectrum. I'm studying heart disease. That's a little bit too general. So you kind of can get the point on, where a Goldilocks fit might be. Let's look at the next one. All right, I'm studying patients who have blood clots, which form in the blood vessels, which supply the heart, leading to the death of areas of heart tissue. So this one, you can see they're really trying to avoid jargon, right? They're trying to explain, but it doesn't sound so scientific, right? We can use some scientific terms, especially depending on some audiences that we're talking to. So let's see how we improved it. I'm studying patients who have blood clots in the left anterior descending artery immediately after its bifurcation from the left main artery, leading to death of the heart tissue on the anterior aspect of the heart. Okay, so we got some more scientific terms. We're not using jargon necessarily, but now we're way too detailed, right? I've lost interest after the first comma. Okay, so again, another example of a too general impact statement. We're developing an MRI method for early detection of arthritis. Again, MRI maybe is a term that we don't all know of. And also this could apply to many groups. So those were some examples of what impact statements are not.
Yes. So we're going to do one more bad example, and then we will rewrite this or show a rewritten version that's a good example. So this one says we are using T1 maps after IV GDD TPA administration to provide an image of GAG concentration. This should enable an earlier detection of OA. So first of all, we're already hitting Hannah's pain point, which is abbreviations. So we have jargon, and earlier detection of OA is a bit too general. So how can we write this in a way that has less jargon, is more specific? Here is an example of that impact statement. So therapies which might prevent or reverse the effects of osteoarthritis can now be tested for efficacy in patients at risk of early arthritis due to ACL tears with our MRI technique, which images the concentration of the critical glycosaminoglycan molecules in cartilage. Woo. So still some abbreviations, but most people know ACL and MRI. So what about this impact statement? What are sort of the parts of this impact statement? So I tried to highlight here in different colors the different parts of the impact statement. So first, what did you do? So this is the last part of this example statement that talks about their MRI technique and what it does specifically that might be different from what has been done previously. In blue is what will be different because of it. So they say how it could reverse the effects of osteoarthritis. So this is really the impact of what they did. And then finally, why is it important? So here they share for it's important for patients at risk of early arthritis due to ACL tears. And this is sort of the exciting portion of it that really helps it stand out and really, I think, ties everything together. So we're going to use this example. We're going to share the slides with you so you have this as an example of the different components of an impact statement. And we're going to take some time now to actually draft our impact statement. And we were trying to figure out the best ways to help people do their initial draft of their statement. And we decided that we're going to try doing it in pairs. So we're going to have breakout rooms of 2 people. And when you get into your breakout room, you can introduce yourself and your work. You can draft your statement in a slide deck that we have prepared that I believe Hannah will be sharing with you as well. You can come back to the main room with questions at any time or when you're finished. So Hannah and I will be in the main room to support you in that way. And feel free, you can draft your statement with your partner or on your own, but then you can share with your partner. You can bounce ideas off of each other, or if it feels better to just work independently on your own, that's fine too. Just kind of, we wanted to give the option. It was really funny because Hannah said that it would be easiest for her to do it as a conversation with someone. Hannah is an extrovert and I'm more of an introvert, which I think surprises some people, but I was like, I would rather do it by myself. So we tried to come up with something a solution that maybe fits both of those. But yeah, feel free to ask us any questions about this at any time.
So we're going to open.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, we're going to open the breakout rooms. We'll start a timer for 10-ish minutes. We'll give you a blast to the chat when it's, 1 minute, we're halfway, and then 1 minute left. Feel free to come back to the main room anytime. And yeah, have fun. Bring your zombie apocalypse skills to your breakout room. Welcome back.
Sorry, we don't have music this time.
Oh yeah, we'll have music next time.
Okay. Is everyone home? Okay. How did that go? Does anyone want to share any initial reactions or thoughts about their first draft of an impact statement, or any questions that came up? Feel free to share in the chat or just shout out if there's anything that came up for you.
Was it easy?
Evan,
hard?
Evan, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, it sort of came up when we were working on ours that it seems like it would be different if you're saying it out loud versus when you write it down, like especially how you start. So like the one that I drafted first, Derek said it made sense like when I read it out loud to him, but reading it on the page, the first sentence and the second sentence are very different. It's sort of, it makes less sense to just read.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we can definitely, Ramona totally agrees with that. I think that's a really great point, and we'll have to think about the environment that we're in and where we want to use our impact statements. For the purposes of today, I think being able to say them out loud and share them is kind of the goal, but that's definitely something to consider when we, for example, want to work on grants or something like that. Kayla said, working on trying to find the balance between too much versus too little science, too specific. We all are challenged with all the time when sharing our work. So this is something that I think we're constantly working on. And I hope that in this next step where we're sharing feedback, where we'll be sharing them with each other in small groups and then getting feedback, we can really get a better sense of what feels too specific versus not specific enough. And again, today, the audience is other biomechanists, but maybe, and hopefully not people who are working on something very similar to what you're doing, just in the same field. So this would be different from, just a lay audience or an audience of scientists in a different field. will be getting different feedback, but you can always take your impact statement and get feedback from different audiences too. James said, my partner used a number statistic within her statement, and I thought that connected to the significance of her work very well. Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think that's something solid that most people can understand. And I think especially when you can see from that number statistic, the impact that that it has. Okay, so next we are going to be, feel free to keep adding questions or yeah, whatever comes out for you, feel free to shout out at any time. But now we're going to be pairing up and giving feedback to each other on our impact statements. And we wanted to share some examples of what that type of feedback could look like. So we'll be in obviously a lot of different groups, so we won't really have a facilitator who and also this is my first time as well, but a facilitator who has a lot of experience with impact statements. So we'll leave it up to ourselves to really give feedback to each other. And some examples of what that feedback could look like are more in the form of questions and curiosities. So after somebody reads their statement, you might have questions like, what do you mean by this term? Or I want to know more information about blank, or I don't really understand blank. Why is blank important? So questions that are really trying to better understand what is the impact of this work, and also help in clarifying or simplifying statements for people. So hopefully, again, most if not all the people in your group will not know too much about each other's research, but even if you do know someone and you know their work, really try to listen as if you're hearing it for the first time. So Hannah, are we okay using the example? Okay, so we have an example from Caitlin, who is participating in the workshop right now. We stole this right off her slide. So thank you, Caitlin,
with her permission. Yeah,
thank you for being okay with us using you as an example first. So we have this example that says, when people have physical therapy after a stroke, their walking only improves about 50% of the time. We're looking for biomarkers that give us useful information about the nervous system and improve treatment selection so more people can walk better. So there's a lot of really awesome parts of this impact statement, right? It's really clear, it's understandable, and I'm not sure if Caitlin was James' partner, but Caitlin used a statistic here that is it great? Yeah. That's helpful.
We didn't plan that.
But it is helpful in putting some context to the impact of this work. But in terms of feedback, so feel free if anyone wants to chime in with any questions or curiosities that come up from this statement. Hannah and I will sort of go first when we're thinking, hearing this statement. I think some of the things that came up for us were, what are the types of biomarkers that might be useful? How might these biomarkers be different from ones that have been used previously? What does it mean to get useful information about the nervous system? What type of information is useful? What does it mean that people can walk better? So how are people walking previously, and then how might it be changing? In what ways is it changing the way that people are walking that's improving that for them? Or for example, improving treatment selection. What does it really mean to improve treatment selection? Does it are there just too many options for people to decide? Are there a narrow view, but this will really help pick, or can you pick multiple treatments and this is help guiding that? So there are different ways that we can maybe bring some clarity to this impact statement that I think will help us learn even more about it in the process. And I think, continue to then spark curiosity and understanding of the project.
It was a great
Does any-
example though, because we yeah, we were excited about it, right? All these curiosities came up. So I think that's a really important thing to drive home, that it was clear enough that we could understand and be curious about wanting to know more. So that was definitely a pro. And I saw a lot of that in the ones that were being drafted. We just picked one at random. So don't feel like yours wasn't good because we didn't pick it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Are there any questions in terms of giving feedback on the impact statements to each other? Or any questions about this example that might help you with your impact statement before we split up? Okay. All right, then we are going to split into breakout rooms for a feedback session. So in this session, we're going to break into groups of about 4 people. And you'll quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll have hopefully about 5 minutes for feedback per person. So maybe we'll give a minute for introductions and then 5 minutes for feedback per person, and we'll send announcements at those marks. And so we won't share everyone's statement back to back. We'll just start with one person sharing their impact statement and just focus on that impact statement for 5 minutes, which might seem like a long time, but I think it really helps when somebody has a question like, what does that mean? And the person who read the impact statement can then think about it and explain what it means. And together you can kind of riff until you have a clear definition or something that makes sense, and have more like tangible, I think, feedback by the end of it, by having this extended period of time for feedback just on a single person. And again, you can come back to the main room at any times with questions or when you're finished. So with that, are there any questions before we get started with that? Okay.
All right, so I'll open the rooms, 5 minutes per person. Be proud of your impact statements. They look great. And yeah, get some awesome feedback from your team.
I guess feedback on the feedback, or questions with anything we've done so far, or comments on how things are going. All right.
That was an amazing sitting in a pause.
I was like, how long is she
I was
gonna make us
yeah.
do this?
I like to make Melissa sit in her pauses. Okay, anyway. So now we're going to move on to iterating. And I saw some of you already were doing this based on your feedback. So moving from your draft to the next iteration of your impact statement. As Melissa said earlier, this is such an iterative process, and you'll go through many versions of your impact statement. And I was going to share, I like to share, like we talk a lot about prototyping in our work. And this is the first prototype of a Rubik's Cube, which I think is kind of fun to see where it started and sort of where it's come to. So think of your impact statements as prototypes right now, right? They're in their early stages, but they will get better as you iterate. So we're going to take 5 minutes now to iterate on your impact statements. Maybe you've already started this, but try to pull in some of the feedback that you heard. And we'll just stay in this main room. I'll play some soft tunes, and we'll take 5 minutes to do this now.
How did this iteration go? How do you feel like this draft, the second draft of your impact statement, is compared to the first one? Any feedback that you weren't expecting but really I don't know, changed it or added something that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, but you feel like ended up making it a lot better? Or what was the most helpful, I guess, takeaway or change that you made this round? Any thoughts? Explaining the importance better. Yeah, that's a good one. Clarity of words and importance. Awesome. Okay. Nice. Well, we will go into breakout rooms again. We'll get feedback again, kind of the same format as last time. We might be going into the same groups, but I think there's less people now, so we'll sort of just see. Hannah's the breakout room queen, so okay. Bye, Rusty. Bye. Bye, Caitlin. Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll just have a couple rooms now, and Hannah and I actually maybe will bounce around and give some feedback this time too.
Yes. Yeah. So there's only 2 or 3 people per room now. So like Melissa said, there should be time to adequate time to share your feedback. I'm going to open all the rooms.
Thanks for hanging with us. We know this is like quite long to do over Zoom. We're realizing I did it in person, and on Zoom I then maybe can't do so many iterations.
Well, we're seeing a lot of people, like a lot of great iteration too. So thank you all for working hard on these. And we're super excited. Yeah, we were super excited to read through them and notice a lot of learning, like a lot of improvement through the draft. So great job with that. And this might be a time where we, like, if we were all in person, I think it'd be really fun to like read them all and share them all aloud. How do people feel on that? Like, do people want to do that or no? Yes, no. That might be hard.
What was the question again?
Do people want to share their, anyone want to share their impact statement aloud? If we don't do it here, we're going to challenge you to go do it in the real world.
And then let us know how that goes.
So it looks like that might
Katie
be
has to leave.
Okay. Yeah, we want to, I think in the interest of time, we'll challenge you to share this out in the real world. So take your impact statements, share it with the next person that you see outside the Zoom. And that is our challenge to you. And I'll hand it over to Melissa to just give us a final little tidbit before we send you all off.
Sure. I think I actually just won't go into the details of the impact storyline and impact case because you have those slides. But yeah, we really appreciate you all being here. And we're excited we saw you're going through impact statements. It's really exciting. We're excited to maybe hear this in person at a conference sometime. I put a feedback form in the chat if you have time. It's just a couple questions. We'd love to get your feedback on the workshop and how it went. And if you have any questions or anything else comes up, always feel free to reach out to Hannah and I. We're happy to talk offline. Or if you want to stay on, we'll be here if you have anything else. But yeah, awesome job, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Great job.